Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the Star Trek Adventure rules by Modiphius. This actual play is performed by adults and contains adult themes. We welcome infinite diversity and infinite combinations. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., which may bear resemblance to entities living or from the mirror universe, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I am your storyteller this evening, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and we are back with our Star Trek Adventure series as we boldly go somewhere new. And so at the top show, as I like to do, I'd like to thank you, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter. If you've not had a chance to check out what we have to offer on Patreon, you can at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast. Jump over to our YouTube channel and join over 1,100 subscribers there as you watch us do what we do best. And then while you're there, then jump over to Twitch for all the stuff we do on Twitch now. So that is twitch.tv/theoldwaystwitch, and visually be stunned by all of our delights. So now I'm going to start with introductions to my right.
Hello there, my name is Mare, and I will be playing Lieutenant Woods, the commanding officer.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Lieutenant Woods, and to Woods' right.
I'm Skip. I'm playing K'van, son of Lorak. I am an ensign, and I am medical officer.
Well, let's hope we don't need your talents right away, Ensign, but who knows? And to the ensign's right.
Hi, this is Morgan, and I am playing Ensign Suuvek, Vulcan security officer, and everything is going to be illogical.
Right. And just in case, a phaser rifle has been secured. Last, but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I play Ensign La'tara. I'm a science officer, and everything's going to go smooth.
So we're going to pick up with our Starfleet officers on their sort of maiden voyage in a runabout as they are just taking leave of DS9. I would like to know who is piloting the shuttlecraft.
I believe I am, maybe. What skills would we be looking at for that?
So this would be a con is probably the department you'd want to look at. And then the attribute therein linked to it would usually be control.
Yeah, I believe that would be the lieutenant piloting our ship.
Okay.
Unless someone else was absolutely dying to take the wheel.
There's no wheel.
Okay, the metaphorical wheel.
Well, this is the thing, Lieutenant. You're the ranking officer, so you're going to tell the crew who is going to fly, even if that is saying, yep, it's going to be me, I'm flying.
All right, it's going to be me, I'm flying.
Okay, so what I'd like is a control con roll for you as you enter the wormhole. So kicking off from DS9 is one thing, right? The docking clamps release, the nacelles power up, and you feel that whoosh underneath your body is just a slight amount of gravitational control is let go of, and you get fully controlled by the systems here in the runabout. And you can feel the movement underneath the deck plates when you're angling this small craft towards essentially a point in space. So the wormhole obviously isn't active all the time. It is active when people get close to it. And so you have the information on board already on the shuttlecraft about where you need to point this thing to. Now the question is can you do it?
I can certainly try. Ooh, and if I recall correctly, a 1 is a double?
Yes. A 1 is 2 successes.
Right, because I rolled a 4 and a 1. So I have a total of 3 successes.
Oh, great. Okay, so the momentum pool for the characters currently is full. So you can't generate any additional momentum, which you can save. But what you can do is do a really, really great job flying. So for your fellow crewmates, the lieutenant looks completely at home flying here and flying towards this strange and indeterminable point in space until there is an enormous blossom of purple and blue, which sort of cascades around the front of the cockpit. It is impossible to not be awed by space opening up and slowly bringing you closer and closer to that point until you enter this strange and sort of chaotic space. And so as you travel through the first portions here of the wormhole, what's around you is a kaleidoscopic energy on display. Beautiful hues of reds and blues and purples, along with a rotating and sort of oscillating flares of white and yellow. And there's this distinct line of energy that seems to pass in and around both sides of the craft's front windows. You can see these energy lines passing through the ship. And I wonder, because this travel is not instantaneous, it does take time to actually chart a path through the wormhole. What is the rest of the crew thinking? Are you talking about anything? Or is everyone stone silent?
Lieutenant Woods would have made at least a bit of a proud show of kicking it into gear and then leaning back into one of the chairs, stretching out like a cat in a way, and then swirling it back to look at the others.
I'm not paying attention to anything because this is as close to the profits that I can get right now. So I'm reveling in the experience every second of it. It is a religious experience for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I don't even think. I mean, I think it is a religious experience for you, period, paragraph. That is what this is. You are traveling in and around the spiritual essence of your people. That's what this place is. But K'van, I wonder, how does the Klingon see this?
K'van just kind of goes back and forth from the panel in front of him to the window and just kind of stares out. And about maybe 10 minutes into the trip, he'll just kind of turn and look and say, "This reminds me of the moons of Betazet reflecting off of Lake Katira. It's very beautiful, very peaceful." And then just kind of go back and punching some buttons.
Okay. Suuvek?
I would have been sitting co-pilot next to Lieutenant Woods, buckled up, as is Starfleet protocol. Not because I don't trust her flying skills, but, gotta adhere to Starfleet protocol. And as everybody is watching, I'll pull up a data pad and pull up the history of the wormhole and read that while we're traveling and not even pay attention to the wormhole itself.
Interesting. Lieutenant, the travel, based upon your role, is fairly, I won't say routine, but it is manageable. The runabout does fluctuate. It does change pitch, and it does move quite a bit around inside this energy tunnel, this wormhole. And there are more than a few course corrections that you have to make inside on the fly. But we won't belabor the rolls because that's not necessary. You've done an excellent job on the first one for passage. As soon as the, say, maybe 15 or so minute mark hits, it's like somebody shuts the lights off and you get belched out into a different part of black space. This sort of corona of blue and purple energy flares again, and you are again in open space.
Lieutenant Woods takes a moment, stretches once more, and looks at the control panels just to double check the coordinates and make sure that we are where we're supposed to be.
Well, you're in the right quadrant of space now. You should be able to chart a course now to go to Fair 3 and inspect a old space station.
Lieutenant Woods will do her thing, working at the controls, plugging in those coordinates and saying, it shouldn't take too much longer. At least we're in the right neck of the woods.
Why don't you give me another control con roll to plug in those navigational details?
Okay, so that was 2 failures.
Okay, so there's a couple things we can do here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can sit as a failure, and it could just lay as such, right?
Yeah.
You could utilize points out of the momentum pool to potentially buy more dice. If you had a value that you wanted to challenge, you could spend determination, and you could essentially you could buy a d20 that would have already rolled a 1.
Mm-hmm. Is this one of the ones where we could spend momentum on something for this?
You can spend momentum on basically any roll you make in the game.
Great. I would like to spend a momentum, and that allows me to re-roll one of the d20s. Because I have this idea of she would have typed it in, second-guessed the numbers that she put in, and then flips open like a little notepad or looks on the inside of her palm where she wrote something down to double check that she got the numbers put in correctly.
So you could spend momentum, a single point of it, to gain another d20 to roll. You could spend 3 momentum to gain 2, right? Those are some options with momentum.
Would I be allowed to continue spending if it doesn't work out?
Unfortunately, 2 d20s are all you can purchase because your momentum caps at 4.
Gotcha. But if I spend 1 momentum and that's not enough?
The next one will cost you 2 either way.
Regardless. Okay.
Because it's basically the same roll.
That makes sense. I will spend the 1 for right now.
Okay.
Am I able to assist on this? Or because it's a reroll, right?
We're all friends here. In what way would you like to assist?
From the council on the co-pilot side, I would be trying to bring up the report that Commander Garrigan gave us to slide it over to Lieutenant Woods' council.
Lieutenant Woods starts to look at the scrawled writing on her hand, but then instead reaches over with that hand to accept the datapad that has the report on it. Great, thanks. Let me just double check this real quick.
Do I roll for assist, Mike, on this one still? Yeah, it's just a 1d20, right?
It is a single d20, yep.
You said it's con and control?
Control con, yeah.
And I fail.
Okay. So you're not able to assist her. That's okay. So Lieutenant Woods can still buy d20s if they'd like to.
I would love to purchase that d20, thank you. That's good. All right, so that would be spending 1 momentum to purchase 1 d20, which I rolled a 7 on. So that is good. That is a success.
Okay, so it's a good momentum spend. You dig deep, Lieutenant, and you reference the data logs again, and you realized, oh, right, okay, yep, I have to reconfigure our starting point because the expected starting point was somewhere else, and now I have to essentially redo my navigational directions. You make the adjustment, maybe a little perspiration at the top of the brow when you're trying to be there, but trying to get in the moment, but you get it set. So you plot the course, Lieutenant, after a little bit of messing around. We'll just say course corrections, making sure you have the right plot course laid in, and you enter warp. You're probably going to be here in this shuttlecraft for some time. The runabout is a little larger than, say, the standard shuttlecraft, and there are berths for sleeping. Just so all of our crew is aware, it's going to take about 6 or so hours to get there. And so what I'd like to know is, with the time you have, what is the crew going to do for 6 hours?
You want to go for it again, K'van? Listen, the only way to get better at playing is if we play more. Come on, we can... Ensign, join us with this too. We can play a game.
I suppose you're referring to blackjack?
Yes, blackjack. It's a great game. And then, I don't know, we don't have to gamble items. We can, and she can dig through and see if there's a mechanics bag, perhaps something that has nuts and bolts and different things in there to use as tokens.
Yeah, you probably have something that you could make tokens out of. I mean, the cool part of it being a shuttlecraft is the fact that you have a replicator. And so the replicator could make an entire poker chip set if that's what you wanted.
Absolutely. So we'll go to the replicator and have some poker chips made. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be something to pass the time. Get to know each other a little bit better.
I love it. Okay. You replicate up some poker chips. You replicate up some poker cards. And then you do have like a small space here that is, I guess, like a half moon table that you could turn and all four of the chairs could kind of face. It's not 10 forward by any means, but it does work.
What are we going to roll?
That was my next question. How do I roll to win?
How do I roll to win? That's a fantastic question, right? Roll to win. How do you do it? Well, if I were playing poker, I would guess that it could be any number of combinations of attributes. It really depends on how you're playing. So someone like Ensign Suuvek might take a very cold and mathematical approach to playing blackjack because there are only so many cards and only so many suits and only so many combinations of how a poker hand could come together, right? So they might use reason and science purely because they'll say, well, this is how big the deck is. Someone who's maybe a little bit more of a player who looks at luck might use daring. I suppose you could use daring command to be sort of this huckster, bright, haughty sort of play by the skin of your teeth and hope that luck is on your side. And I could see even a third path, which would be something like insight. I'd even give you insight science if you want to read people. So there's a lot of ways you could play this. And I think that's one of the strengths of the system is being able to do the same thing in different ways.
So could I make an argument for reason command if I want to try to kind of keep track of the cards, but I want to risk just a little bit more?
Yeah, I'd allow that.
Okay.
I would like to use insight and medicine with my focus in psychiatry to be able to read facial expressions and everything.
Yeah, 100%. So the way this will work is you'll have to each roll, anybody who's playing, and let me know how many successes you get. And because we're all playing a group game against one another, we'll sort of suspend the momentum pool spends at this point. You've only got 3 in it. So I think it might be best if we leave the momentum pool alone for a moment. Although you could totally use determination. You could.
Could we potentially use one of our focuses to help in this?
Yeah, so if you have a focus that would apply, you would declare it before you roll. And you'd say, hey, well, we're going to play poker. Here's the focus. Here's how I think it fits. And then dependent upon the adjudication from the storyteller, I would allow you to roll and thus utilize the focus and potentially get 2 successes for anything under your department.
Brilliant. Thank you. I am planning to use presence and command, and I'm planning to use my composure focus with it to hold a nice poker face.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
This like leading, let's talking us, through some of the game, but maintaining my poker face as I go.
Yeah, go ahead and roll.
That is 2 successes with a 12 and a 6 under a 13.
Okay. 2 successes for Lieutenant Woods. You've got a good hand, Lieutenant.
Now I'm going to go ahead and use insight and medicine, and I will use my psychiatry focus.
Okay.
So that would be insight is 8, medicine is 4, so that's 12. So anything under 12?
Yep.
Okay, so I got 1 success.
Okay. 1 for Skip.
All right, well, my science is 1, so this is gonna be super, super sweet. I got 1 success.
Okay. 1 there. And Ensign La'tara.
I'm going to use reason command so I can play a little aggressive, but still kind of keep track of what's going on.
Okay.
And I have no successes.
Okay. Playing blackjack over the next, say, hour or so is a fairly good time for everybody. I think that if you're looking at it from like a win-loss ratio, as well, many people would, Lieutenant Woods does eventually just sort of trend a little higher than everybody else. Whether it's her experience playing with other command officers or just the sheer luck that she might have as far as cards, that come up. That's the way some of these go. But this is more of a social interaction thing than it is an actual, we'll just say, gambling, because really Starfleet doesn't believe in money. So what I would like to do then is kind of move back around to the top of them, the roles here, and ask Lieutenant Woods, while you are playing with your fellow officers, what is the thing that you're sharing about yourself or something that happened? What is the story, the camaraderie that gets built? How do you build the camaraderie?
Lieutenant Woods would talk about how this reminds her of her first handful of days in the academy, meeting with some others. She learned initially from another hotshot wannabe pilot, the big, hot-headed guys. And she learned from them and learned very quickly that half of the game is keeping track and thinking about probability, but the other half of the game is trying to learn how people work and to learn what makes them tick. While, yes, that can give you an edge in the game, it just makes you a little bit closer and more involved. It gets you better connected. And she talks about how she very much finds that finding a way to connect to someone is more important than winning. But winning is still kind of nice.
Okay. It's interesting. So, Skip, I wonder with K'van what wisdom he might share from, his experiences over the journey or before becoming part of Starfleet.
Growing up on Beta Z, Klingon was challenging at times. It was a great experience. It opened up different ideas and pathways that my sister did not experience. She stayed on the home world. So we have different outlooks on life in general. She serves the Klingon High Command, and I, of course, am in Starfleet. But we have managed to work out a compromise in our outlooks, and we are tolerable together, which makes my mother very happy, and my father is my father.
Okay. Suuvek, given your position as far as the challenge, this game of blackjack goes, it may not end up be going your way, but I wonder, as personal anecdotes are shared, is there anything that the ensign is sharing about their upbringing?
I'm completely awkward when it comes to social anything. I don't understand the need to share personal information. So I just look. Both my parents are part of the Vulcan Space Council. And I continue to look down at my cards.
Okay. Ensign La'tara?
So I probably would have shared that, I'm just from a small farm in the middle of Bajor, and that I just happened to get lucky enough that I was excelling enough to apply for Starfleet and get accepted in the aftermath of the occupation. Wasn't to run away from home, and it wasn't to disappoint my parents that I wasn't going to be there. There's just more out in the universe than the prophets themselves, and just more than this little space where I was born and raised.
Yeah, and it's a fairly poignant opinion given the current state of where you're at, hurtling through beyond the wormhole into a completely different quadrant of space. So, blackjack aside, the crew does get an opportunity to rest if they decide to take it. They get an opportunity to eat through the replicator if they decide to take that. And as the hours click by, you get closer and closer to Ferrer 3. Is anyone going to continue to man the pilot or co-pilot chairs during the journey?
I think once the game's over, I would go back and sit in the chair. The co-pilot chair. The other pilot chair is reserved for Lieutenant Woods.
That's correct. Okay. So give me since you're over there, Ensign, why don't you give me an insight science roll?
Okay.
I know.
Well, I got 1 success.
You pick up something on sensors. Just for a moment, you get like a strange reading off of one of the sensors. It is a little puzzling. The shuttlecraft's its overall weight has changed.
Our shuttle with like the Beethoven?
Yes.
Oh. Lieutenant?
Yes, Ensign?
There appears to be either something wrong with our sensors or something wrong with the shuttlecraft. We seem to have gained weight, and I didn't notice us eating after we arrived over here.
I mean, the food was good, but... And she moves closer to the controls and tries to analyze what it is she sees.
From the readout that you see here, the shuttlecraft, or the runabout as it is, has changed weight by about 60 kilograms.
I would like to check for life signs aboard this shuttlecraft.
So Suuvek's role was to see that it was on screen, to notice it. This role is Lieutenant Woods utilizing the ship itself to try to locate it.
Great, so I'm rolling what again?
You are rolling sensors and engineering, and so that is, for the runabout, is 8.
May I use any of my focuses to assist with this?
What focus would you use?
I have mechanical engineering and I have communication.
I don't think this is a communication thing.
Okay.
This would definitely be like a ship's sensors focus, something like that. So,
Would I be able to assist?
I mean, this is going on, so everybody can be a part of it if they want in some way.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking? How would K'van step in and use it?
Probably medicine and control.
Okay, so I think you could potentially utilize something like medicine on this when you find whatever it is that the thing is. But you don't have enough data yet. So for the runabout to find it, it's a 2d20 roll, and you need to get under 8, Lieutenant Woods.
Okay. I do not succeed. No successes.
Okay.
Are we allowed to use momentum here?
Yeah, certainly. If you want to buy more dice.
What does determination do once more? Does that makes it a 1?
It does, but you have to risk a value to do it. So you have to basically challenge or call upon a value that you have on the character sheet, right? And then it's got to make sense.
What happens if it's not successful?
Well, you wouldn't roll that, right? So if you'd say, I'm spending determination, here is the value that I am calling upon to do so, there's no roll, it just happens.
Okay.
The value you call upon has to make sense.
Okay, but I could use a momentum.
You could to buy more dice.
Sorry about our momentum pool, guys. But
It's what it's for.
exactly. Okay, that's a 17, so that's not helpful.
It is not.
No, so that's a failure on that die.
Okay, so you get to the pad and you begin sort of taking in the information that Ensign Suuvek is giving you, and you are using the runabout to try to find where this just imaginary mass came from. And you cannot find it. You can't locate it. And then, baffling further, the ship corrects for the total mass, and it goes back to what it was before you left.
Well, I don't like that. Any idea what that could have been?
We detected no transporter activity, did we?
You haven't checked the transporter logs, but you sure didn't hear the transporter start up and back. Remember that a runabout's not very large, so it is effectively the interior is about as big as like a big Jeep. So you'd know if the transporter kicked on.
Sorry, we didn't note any life signs.
Nope, you didn't find any. You can continue to look, continuing to search, continue to look, check through logs. It all comes back basically unknown. And that is when your navigational sensors begin to beep.
Don't like that either.
You are arriving soon at Frere 3.
Oh, we like that, actually. I get nervous when things start beeping. You never know when it's actually a bad thing.
So the first system is a system of several planets, but the one in question that you're looking for is, of course, this big glob of gas, at least supposedly. It has a fairly good ring of outer asteroids as well, so you'll have to pick your way a little bit through that before you get to the planet itself. They're not tightly wound in this space, but there are some asteroids here that are present. And then on the other side of the planet, you pick up a structure on sensors. It is a long tube.
Did you say the space station is a long tube?
I did.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
You did. It is a long tube.
Is there any way for us to scan it for anything?
Yeah, sure. You can absolutely make a sensors and engineering roll from the shuttlecraft.
Is that an 8 as well?
It sure is. Yep. So, like, what you're experiencing, Lieutenant, is sort of what everybody who is formerly on a Galaxy-class vessel experiences, which is, oh, wow, yeah, shuttlecraft really not that impressive when it comes to their complement and their hardware. Like, it really is basically just like a floating bus that takes people from place to place. Now, this specific one has also got photon torpedoes and has, phaser armaments. So there's that, but it's only as good as the hardware it can be. But yeah, you can totally roll.
All right. Anyone opposed to checking that out? Anyone have any other ideas before I scan it?
Nope.
I just like a lot of collaboration. It's fine. And she just goes to the scanner, having felt a little defeated already from before. I just figured I'd throw that one out there. That's good. All right. I got a 1, though, so that's 2 successes.
So you do get some information back about this tube. So it is roughly about 120 or so meters wide. It is roughly about 500 or so meters long. There are varying insets inside the station. There's this tube. There does seem to be places where you could potentially dock a ship. It is also seemingly hollow through the middle.
I mean, that makes sense. It's a tube.
It is indeed a tube. There are also some sort of structural pieces that come out of some of the sides. Not certain what they do. Most of them appear to be pointed at Frere 3.
I'm not picking up anything other than its dimensions on the scanner.
I mean, you pick up like the superstructure is made out of a metallic material, and you pick up, well, with a 1, 2 successes, you probably pick up a low amount of power that is still present on the station.
This thing is still on, or it can be turned on.
Is the life support activated?
You think so?
Maybe?
You probably have to get a little closer.
She starts driving it closer, inching us closer.
Well, in the mission brief, it mentioned that we should deploy the buoys around the planet first before exploring the space station.
That is true. Let's set about doing that now that we know this is here. We know where it is. We can perhaps set it up so everything is in alignment with this station.
Sounds good to me.
Ensign, I think you're going to have to probably roll control security at some point, because you're going to have to fire the buoys like torpedoes.
Which ensign are you talking to?
Suuvek, of course, your security officer. The one who would fire the torpedoes if that needed to happen.
Yes.
Oh, the ship can assist with this as well. So someone other than Suuvek can roll a single d20.
Rolling control security, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 successes. And I would use my focus of Starfleet protocol, which would then... Oh, I didn't roll any 1, so it doesn't matter.
So you have 3 successes.
Yes.
Okay. So for the rest of you, this looks like Ensign Suuvek sort of just goes to work on a Monday morning and makes the donuts. The shuttlecraft begins to sort of change position, and there is a whoosh every time one of these buoys are deployed. And when they fire out from the ship, they go out and they sort of flare a little bit, like they have their own internal rocketry that goes off, and they speed to a different portion of the planet. And very slowly they begin to report back in to the runabout that they're in position. So, Lieutenant Woods, you are able to check off the mission box that says deploy 6 buoys, which is good. Step 1 is done. Now you need to get to step 2, which is investigate the space station.
Ensign Suuvek, don't forget the present I got for you. And she hands over the weapon.
I appreciate a good piece of weaponry. Thank you, Lieutenant Woods.
Okay, Lieutenant, are you going to attempt to dock the Beethoven at this odd station?
I am. Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be a flight roll for you. Control con.
Control con. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's 1 success.
That is 1 success. And that's, for the most part, all you need. So finding a place to dock is a little bit more creative than you were hoping. So there are exterior points on this tube, which in some way might look like a docking arm. But upon further inspection, they're not prepared to hold the vessel. And so unlike a big ship, which might have umbilicals and stuff like that where you could hook up to, the runabout doesn't have that, right? It needs a space to land in a secure zone so that way it can allow its passengers to disembark. So you have to go into the tube. And so you go into part of this tube. Now, the tube has no lighting inside of it, which means all you have are sort of these tiny little lights that exist on the side of the runabout. And you have to get a little creative with some of your flying because you get way too close to some of the inside of this, which reveals this material that seems to have built up on the inside of the tube. It's a blue and gray sort of material. You're not sure exactly what it is. Sensors can't determine what it is either. But what you do find after about 5 or so minutes of hunting is a port on the inside of the tube that you think, if you align the ship with, you'd be able to basically get in through one of their docking bays, which is also circular.
Lieutenant Woods would focus up and make for the docking bay.
You make for the docking bay. The doors slide open, sort of cut in half as soon as you get too close. And you see the interior of the ship, the interior of the station. Shuttlecraft very slowly passes through what feels like some sort of energy field. See the instrumentation sort of flicker for a second. Inside this little space is a portion that's probably no more than, say, 8 meters deep by, say, 6 to maybe or so meters wide. It's a little internal space. You can see that there are some sort of mechanical equipment that is nearby. The tough part for everybody here is that what's here does not align with Starfleet at all. It doesn't align with the Ferengi technology that you're somewhat aware of either. K'van, this is definitely not Klingon, nor is it Vulcan or Bajoran. You don't know who owned this station or why they left. But you're here. You land.
Did we confirm anything regarding life support in our initial scans?
Not yet, but that is something that could be confirmed.
Lieutenant, would you like one of us to confirm that?
By all means, someone else can take a crack at it. I'll just go and stand over by the replicator in case we need to make any suits.
Actually, K'van could probably use his medical tricorder from here and tell whether or not there was breathable air on the other side of the wall.
Okay. That would be, I would assume, medicine and control?
You could do control medicine.
Okay. Let's see, that's going to be a 13. 2 successes.
There is absolutely breathable air on the other side of this wall.
Lieutenant, there is acceptable oxygen levels.
Very good then. So as long as we are all ready, then Ensign Suuvek, you could lead the way. Gestures at the weapon.
Yes, Lieutenant. That seems logical. On the pad on the back of the runabout, I enter the whatever it might be to open the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. That seems like a reasonable passcode.
Sure. You pop open the door and the back of the runabout splits open like a clamshell, and you see a dark space beyond. You have some lights on the runabout, and then the cells obviously are still lit up. You get a nice blue ground effects that sort of hit everything in here, which maybe makes it a little more eerie. Not sure. You don't hear anything. The air here is fairly stale. It makes you immediately wonder whether or not the air recyclers are working or have worked in quite a while.
Yeah, there's probably a flashlight on the end of the phaser rifle. So I would be scoping out left to right with my phaser rifle.
Sure. The space is circular, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. And there is a door, seemingly ahead, which looks like it is patterned a bit after the door that you came in, which has closed to open space. You're not sitting there just watching the energy field. Other than that, there does seem to be some controls or maybe a control panel over there, which might get used. And there would be space in here to do like small shipment loads or maybe to offload things for people who bring supplies. You also don't see any signs or any posted languages.
K'van will make sure he grabs the medical bag, just in case.
And I imagine we have those like little wrist lights that we can strap on and use to wave around like the end of the light on the phaser.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you've got standard issue Starfleet flashlights, which are palm lights. So they give a fairly reasonable bright light up to a certain amount of distance. And then they sort of trail off after that. It gives you also the ability to use your tricorder in the other hand, or perhaps a phaser potentially, and depending on the circumstances.
Does it seem as though it would have a logical beginning and end, or is it truly just a tube that goes all the way through?
So that's a great question. You landed somewhere sort of like a third the way down the tube.
Okay.
And given that it is just a tube, or a tube shape anyway, you need to find out where the central portion, like where's the bridge? Where's the main computer? Where do they do their stuff at?
That's what the lieutenant's thinking about in this moment as she's taking it in, thinking of where they docked, where they came from. If this thing is just a giant straw, essentially, she imagines that all of the areas that would be used for management would be centered on this tube. So I suggest we try to find the bridge, which, if I would think it was in the middle, I'd head this way.
Okay. That's reasonable. You're going to head out from the main dock area that you stopped at and see what's there.
Very much with everyone else, would just like to clarify. Not just striking out on my own. That's some silly goose mess.
I mean, I won't stop you, but your fellow crewmates might.
I mean, as commanding officer, you do give us direction. I will fall in line right behind Lieutenant Woods.
You fall in line. So getting out of this space here, going through the doors, is rather interesting because you enter what looks like a automated platform system. So there is the slow hum of what looks like this walkway. It's maybe 2 or 3 meters wide, not terribly wide. It is roughly a standard hallway height anyway, so about 2.5 meters or so. And it seems to go in one direction, which is to your left. And you can see that the floor is actually moving very slowly.
Moving in what way?
It looks like an automated walkway.
Oh, like a people mover.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Did you say people mover out loud? I would have raised the eyebrow.
Right. You're just moving corpses in and out.
Well, not like that. No, like I read in a book once that in these airports and various things before we got into space, like they would stand on it with their luggage. And you know what? Anyway, let's just keep going.
Are you going to get on the automated walkway? Lieutenant Woods?
Lieutenant Woods places a foot on it first and just sees what happens.
The floor speeds up.
She pulls her foot back off of it initially. How much faster?
Probably twice as fast as it was, which, albeit, wasn't very fast.
And there's no other way to get through there? Is there any other floor around it that we could walk?
This just appears to be the way that they move.
Fantastic. Let's go for a ride. And she steps onto the moving walkway.
You step on, and the walkway moves you forward. As it does, a few lights overhead start to turn on. They bathe the space here in sort of an amber color. Is the crew following the lieutenant?
Yeah, and I'm going to have my tricorder out and looking at readings to see if there's really intense power fluctuations, or if it's just a gradual, like, kind of booting up from essentially sleep mode. And if the power signature is familiar.
The power readings are increasing as you're continuing to move on this space. As far as what the readings are, you're not terribly sure what power range they are, what type of power it is. Your tricorder interprets it as a specific type of dynamic electrical power.
Okay, so it doesn't register it as stuff that we're already familiar to, like the way that Klingon systems work or the Cardassian systems on the station, stuff like that.
No.
Okay, so it continues to be a mystery, just like the tube itself. That seems reasonable.
K'van will be continuously scanning for life signs.
Life forms. Okay, so give me a scan roll.
Would that be still control and medicine?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is 2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes. You definitely see the life forms around you. That's not hard. You see that the station, at least in your immediate area, doesn't seem to have any other life signs in it. You are reading that the oxygen levels here are within breathable parameters and doesn't seem to be any poisonous or detrimental gas in the space.
Mm-hmm.
You also see that Lieutenant Wood's pulse is a little elevated. And you can put 1 point back in the momentum pool because you got 1 more success than we needed.
Lieutenant, is something troubling you? Your readings are a little off.
What? Me? Nah, I'm fine.
Perhaps deep breaths. The oxygen level is within normal parameters. It may calm you.
I'm calm. This is fine. We're just on an abandoned spacecraft that we have no idea who it was made by, and, no language, no anything like that. This is fine.
Yeah, you're still not seeing any sort of language or signs. You don't even know where this thing goes. But you do see now up ahead that the walkway ends and that there is a wall there.
Just a wall?
It looks like just a wall, yeah.
Huh, look at that. Anybody else's pulse elevating, or...
You get within about 10 meters or so of this wall, and a seam forms from top to bottom. And the door now opens. And When it opens, what shines out at you are a bunch of twinkling lights, like computer lights.
Now, is the walkway still moving at this point?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you can see that right on the edge of the door where the walkway sort of dips underneath the door. So this is a stop for you. You're going to have to get off the walkway. There's no other way to go.
Okay. No, my question is does it continue the moving walkway? Like, once the door is open, it continues on past the stop. And you have to, step off it to look at the computers.
Yeah, you would have to step off. You will have to step off anyway. It's forcing you to this room.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to stop off and scan the computers, I guess.
Yeah, so you get to this approach, and Woods is first, and then the rest of the crew obviously joins her. Seconds later, you are in what looks like a nerve center. So there are several chairs, there are several stations, and there are several screens, all lit up, monitoring things. What you don't see is anyone sitting in them.
I'm going to go to just one of the stations and kind of look at the console. Is there any writing on the console?
There is writing on the console, although you're not able to decipher it immediately. But there are definitely symbols. And there is writing on the console. The best thing you can imagine is categorization that's being done.
Okay. Can I roll insight and science to try to get a rough idea of what it says using the tricorder?
Yeah. You sure you can attempt to use the tricorder as a sort of translation device?
I have one success.
So you get the feeling, Ensign, that this space here is used to monitor what's going on Freya 3. All of the view screens have a different view of the planet close up.
Okay, so it's not monitoring the station, it's monitoring the planet.
Yes.
Okay. Lieutenant, from the rough guess I can give you, all of these screens are looking at the planet and taking readings of the planet. It's probably not going to give us any information about the infrastructure here inside.
That's odd. But at least there must be something of interest on the planet if this entire station was placed here and is now targeting it.
Yeah. Do we have an estimate of how old the station is?
No, you'd have to know a lot more about it before you could try to ascertain how old it is. The superstructure itself is made out of spaceborne metals. So that lines up with essentially most races that are spacefaring.
Okay.
The door to the nerve center that you came through shuts.
If I go back towards the door, does it open again?
No.
Oh, that's not helpful. Well, Lieutenant, it looks like we are continuing to move forward if we can get out of this room.
Does it seem to have a door on the other end?
Yeah, you go to the other side of the room to look for a door, and you see that there is a cut circle, sort of portal-ish door, same as you would have come in from the other side.
Does it move when we approach it?
You approach it, and there is a tone that goes off in the room, a sort of a deep tone that rings through just twice. You hear it's almost like a bell goes off, but a pitch or two lower than you would be used to hearing a bell. Welcome, an overhead voice says. I've analyzed your speech patterns. You should be hearing me clearly. We're so happy you've made it. We have important work to do. You'll see here, little lights come on and begin to illuminate the chairs at the stations. But there's a vast amount of work to be done. We've been scanning the planet. We'll need you to step in and assist.
And who are you?
We are the computer system that controls the station. An automated system left behind after its inhabitants perished.
What race were your builders?
The Sona originally built us.
And what led them to perish?
Unfortunately, a collection of material grew on the underside of the station. They were unable to withstand its effects.
This material, is it organic in nature? Biological?
It is neither. It is radioactive.
Would the Sona be in the Starfleet database?
At this point, I believe so.
Ensign La'tara, are any of us suffering from radiation poisoning yet? Are we seeing a decay?
I will immediately begin to scan for that.
So it's not something you would normally scan for, so you begin to sort of put the medical tricorder into a different mode to scan for something.
I rolled a 20 and a 9.
Okay, so the 20 is problematic. That 20 is a complication. So you rolled a 9, which is a success. So you can have a roll where there is both a success and a complication, or you can spend 2 momentum and buy the complication off and just keep the single success.
How many momentum do we have? We're back to
You have 3 right now.
3. That'll be 2. I want to keep the complication.
Okay. So what your tricorder picks up is that the levels of radiation in this space are far higher than you would normally be exposed to. And all of the crew are beginning to show signs that they're picking up on that sort of radiation. It doesn't look too terribly dangerous just yet, but you wouldn't want to stay here for more than maybe a day.
Would I have the medications to compensate?
Not here, but you could probably replicate them on the runabout.
Radiation levels are higher. Now that I look at it, I would not recommend being here for a long period of time. Once I get back to the runabout, I'll be able to replicate the medicines to offset this. But we need to be careful.
So we either have to work very fast or... computer?
Yes?
Is there a way for our technology to join with yours from a remote location?
I don't believe so, but I don't believe that's the focus. Prayer 3 has an important part to play in this. The research has been behind for several years. It needs to be continued. It's something that should begin immediately.
Hate talking to computers. They're not helpful sometimes.
What is this mission that you're aimed for? What is your objective with Freyer 3?
Our objective is to determine the location for repopulation to begin at.
For the Sona?
For the Sona.
Do you have biological matter with which to replicate yourselves? If the Sona have since perished?
We do. Locked within the tube and in the outer layers, there are several cryogenically frozen Sona who can be prepared, rebirthed, but not until a secure location is found. You will assist us in this matter.
Would I know if there's Starfleet protocol that doesn't allow us to do that?
Geez, Starfleet protocol. Yeah, I mean, there's a dizzying array of potential problems with what they're asking for, right? So who owns Freyer 3? Well, right now it's unsettled. And so the Sona don't necessarily have the right to do that as far as Starfleet probably is concerned. So there's that problem. Although you couldn't necessarily say yes or no. Like someone with Starfleet law could come in here and say, well, the planet's unclaimed, so there's nothing that says they can't. The only problem you might have would be if the planet did have some sort of sentient life on it, right? And then you could run into a prime directive problem because you would be altering the course of a race's history based on your contact with them. That would be a major no-no, like get you drummed out of Starfleet problem. Those are the major hitches that you see, Ensign.
I lean over to Lieutenant Woods. Lieutenant, we could be court-martialed for this.
But we are also trapped within this capsule as well. It's kind of difficult to be court-martialed if we're either radioactively killed or trapped within this room by a computer.
Computer, are you holding us against our will?
The computer doesn't answer.
That sounds like a yes in computer.
The task is quite simple. Analyze the data, provide a reasonable and survivable landing spot for the Sona who are left here, and then initiate the firing sequence.
Computer, if there's years of data for us to comb through and we will perish like the original Sona on the station did, that is not helpful for your mission. Is there a way to lower the radiation levels in this room so that we may be of better use?
Certainly. Perhaps your vessel could work to remove the material on the inside of the tube. You see, the space station has no weaponry. We have no way to remove the radioactive material that is built up on the inside of the tube.
So if that's the case, one of us should be able to go back there so that we can target it directly in order to eradicate it.
The computer doesn't really reply. It's waiting for its carbon-based life forms to figure out what they want to do.
Computer, will you allow one of us to go back to the shuttle to eradicate the matter that is causing this issue while the rest of us work on the mission?
Certainly. Select your representative.
K'van, you should go back to the shuttle so that way you can also make the meds.
Understood.
And this crew member is capable pilot and weapons?
I am adequately trained.
Technically, each of us has a skill in that, so perhaps if it was not just one of us, we could all go do our part on the ship in order to make this happen.
But then no one will be parsing through the data. This is problematic.
Well, we'll do it when we come back and we're not going to die of radiation poisoning.
Somehow I doubt that.
You're a computer. You're not supposed to have doubts.
Oh, the Sona have trained me well. They are crafty. Very well. K'van, you disappear. In a whirl of energy and motion, K'van has disappeared right off this space.
What have you done with my crew member?
K'van, you appear back on the shuttlecraft.
That was intriguing.
I have placed him on the shuttle, and now he may begin the process. So please, pick a chair.
K'van will tap his communicator.
Okay.
Lieutenant Woods, can you read me?
Can I read him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I have got you loud and clear, K'van. Are you all right?
I am fine. I am back aboard the runabout. I will begin scanning and let you know what I find. One moment, please.
Very good. Parsing through data, I suppose, is the name of the game.
K'van, what are you going to search for?
First thing I want to do is scan the actual whatever it is that's clinging to the ship and see if I can figure out what exactly it is to begin with.
Sure. So that's definitely a sciences role.
Okay.
So probably reason science.
And I do have xenobiology as a focus. Can I use that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. That is going to be one success.
Okay. So this sort of film that is attached to the underside is radioactive. The computer's right? Unfortunately, it is also something which does appear to have some sort of space resistant or hardened biological portion to it, right? It is growing almost like a space moss.
Understood.
Your concern, however, is that if it is a biological, is there anything within that biological that could be considered life? Like in the big L sort of word.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to get closer to it to actually scan it to get a better reading on it. You're not close enough.
That's something I can get through in the runabout, or will I have to actually go out there?
Well, I mean, you could do technically either. You could go out there and you could get suited up and go little 0G Klingon and fly around inside the tube if you'd like, or you could fly the ship and get closer.
I don't want to put the ship in danger, so actually I'll go do a little fly around Klingon.
So 0G is a little difficult, but it's not impossible. You are able to obtain a helmet from the replicator, obtain the clothing that you need to cover yourself. You now sort of look like you're in this purple and gray suit, and you have a big helmet on now. But you can exit the bay and then begin getting a little bit better of a look at this. So what I'd like you to do, though, for 0G movement is I'd like you to make me a different sort of roll. So I don't know if you have anything specializing in 0G.
No, hand-to-hand combat focus, but I'm not combating the radioactivity yet, so.
Yeah, probably not. So this will be a fitness roll for sure, and I will put it as a fitness and security roll.
Okay, so that's 14. That is 2 successes.
Okay, so that's good because this has sort of an increased threshold of difficulty. Not a single success will simply do. So, K'van, you begin your, circumnavigation. You sort of open up the doors and are able to get out through like a maintenance hatch that exists underneath this, so that way you don't depressurize the entire bay.
Uh-huh.
And you're floating out in space. And there is sort of a terror that exists about floating out in space, but you have, a tether that you're like latching on and like magneting on as you continue to move. You got boots that will assist you in that as well.
Uh-huh.
The underside of the tube, though, is where most of this stuff has grown. And when you get there and you begin scanning it, a couple things you can see from straight away, right? It's probably about 5 to 6 millimeters thick at like the edge of it. And after the edge is when it grows into like several centimeters high. And this stuff does move. Like you can see the biological matter inside of it moving around. I'll leave you there for a moment. So back in the nerve center, if you are helping parse the data, I will absolutely need a reason. I'll take reason and science or reason and engineering, your choice. Lots of reasoning going on.
Is that all 3 of us or?
Certainly. So it's a group roll. So it's going to be a roll where successes will be applied to overall required successes. So you'll sort of benefit towards it.
I have 2 successes.
Okay. We'll mark that down.
I got 1.
Okay.
And I have 3.
Oh, very good. So over the next hour or so, the 3 of you put in an awful lot of work. This is all atmospheric data, but it is atmospheric data that uses this sort of telescopic sensors on the side of the tube to drill down and see if there is something hardened within this gaseous planet. And with 6 successes in total at this point, you can confirm that there is a dense surface. So it isn't technically a full gaseous planet. There's something else here. And you begin to notice that there are pockets within this denser material, like inclusions, like the stone or whatever material it is. There are pockets within it.
So something like caves?
Akin to it, yeah.
Okay. Well, and as we're parsing the data, Lieutenant Woods, I'm sorry if I overstepped in having K'van go back to the ship. I should have consulted with you first.
No, it was a fair move in this. I would have preferred all of us being on the ship. She mumbles as if glancing up as if the computer can hear her. But if we are in a way doing the mission as we were asked to do it as well, We are observing the planet. We are monitoring it as well, so hopefully that will stand up for us in case of court-martial. And she fires like a finger gun at Ensign Suuvek and is probably taking this as a moment to get a bit of enjoyment from watching the Vulcan's response.
The deadpan stare.
I raise my eyebrows. Yes, Lieutenant. Since we've been held against our will by an artificial being, I foresee that Starfleet will choose not to court-martial us at this time.
See? That's great.
K'van, why don't you give me another medical roll on this biomass?
It's a 3 and a 5, so that would actually fall into my focus of xenobiology.
Right, so what's your medicine?
My medicine is 4.
Okay, so the 3 counts as 2.
Okay, so that would be 3 successes.
Yeah, so you have a problem. You realize the error in your readings from earlier, and that error is the rate at which the radiation will be affecting the crew. It's not a day or two. It's likely 3 to 4 hours when they'll begin to first feel symptoms. And this stuff is dangerous to be near. You're okay in your suit, but this is not good. This is really bad.
Am I getting any sentient life signs from this?
No, you're not.
Okay.
It is a biological mass, which likely carries some sort of radioactive effect, but it does not appear to be intelligent.
Is there a way to get a sample of it, kind of scrape it off and anything like that, safely?
You'll have to use basically like a laser scalpel.
Okay. I would like to do that. And then once that is safely done, I will K'van to Lieutenant Woods.
Yes.
Lieutenant, there was an error in my calculations. This radioactivity is extremely potent. We have about 3 to 4 hours before we start to experience discomfort.
Discomfort. Okay. On the ship, are you able to replicate any radiation medication that could waylay those symptoms?
As soon as I return to the Beethoven, I will begin doing that.
How much time do you think that would allot us beyond the 3 hours?
That's a very good question.
Indeed it is. And it's likely going to be a question for next episode. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Star Trek Adventures. We haven't come up with a fun, quirky name for this show, but I am certain we'll do that in the near future. As for now, we want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank the cast for sticking this one out, even when they got put into a unfortunate position. We look forward to next time. Thanks.